Bartholomew Town.
As Rhode Island's first ever member-owned credit union, Navigant Credit Union has been a staple in the local business community for more than 108 years. Today, Navigant is a $3.4 billion institution serving more than 136,000 members across 25 physical branch locations. But since its founding in 1915, the mission has never changed. Navigant Credit Union's team of financial professionals have remained committed to improving the financial well-being of the families, businesses, and communities they serve across Rhode Island. Learn more at navigantcu.org. Wednesday afternoon, we started to learn about the presence of ICE agents in the city of Newport, and at first, a lack of clarity as to what was actually going on. But certainly, we can confirm that ICE and FBI agents were on the ground in Newport yesterday. And as we understand, there was really a single person, or at least a single operational target that was taking place. And this took place in the area of Thames Street, kind of over by, if you know where Brick Alley is, that type of, that part of town on Upper Thames Street, the specific address, Thames Street and Cotton Court. And according to a number of news outlets where this has been reported on the ground, including the Newport Daily News, eyewitnesses saw at least 4 men wearing masks and black and camouflage clothing with the ICE insignia, or at least some kind of law enforcement insignia, in the area of Upper Thames Street. And this was in the morning. And again, the report coming over time here. Throughout the day, it was trickling in, but by Wednesday evening, it was clear and it was determined that this was a single operation. So it's not a scenario where you've got, ICE comes into Newport and now they're going up and down the street and they're going into every restaurant in town, as some people had feared, or they're going into schools or anything like this. But that is not to diminish the situation. And I'm going to get to that in just a moment, because it doesn't even matter if this is a single person being targeted. If nobody is being specifically targeted and you just have the presence of ICE, okay, that in and of itself creates the type of chaos, anxiety, and frankly, trauma that I think is intended by these actions that we're seeing very quickly out of the gate by the Trump administration as part of this, just let's go 100% no holds bar effort between executive orders and between actions that are, again, by design, intended to put people on their heels, intended to put people into a state of anxiety and trauma. So this incident yesterday, is it an exclusive situation where, hey, this is the end of operations by ICE in Newport? Who knows? They're not going to give you that information. They're not going to hold a press conference today and say, well, we were in Newport yesterday and we went after one person. And the plan is, we'll be back in a little bit and we'll get some more people. Nobody really knows. And again, that is by design. That is part of the situation. So as you hear some people downplay what took place in Newport yesterday and say, well, it was just a single target. Everybody's overreacting. No, they're not. People are not overreacting. They're reacting appropriately as they're being, and we all are, for sure, being prodded and poked and agitated and, in some cases, traumatized with this type of police activity, law enforcement activity, however you want to frame it, taking place on the ground in real time. So, again, I spoke with a number of people. Nobody is going to come on, at least nobody of substance is going to come on and do a podcast today, back and forth for 40 minutes about what's happening from an advocacy standpoint, okay, from an ambassador type standpoint. What do I mean by ambassador? Community leaders that are more plugged into communities of immigrants in Newport or otherwise than I am, for example. But I was able to speak with a number of people about this. And look, what's happening right now is part of the playbook by design. And I know I've said that a bunch of times, but it's by design intended to strike fear into the hearts of as many people as possible. And this coming in tandem, by the way, as we learned yesterday afternoon, that Guantanamo Bay is now going to be opened for up to 30,000 migrant detainees. I mean, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a detention center. I'm going to call it an internment camp. I've heard some people call it a concentration camp. We already know about Guantanamo Bay and the dubious legal status of that facility and human rights violations that have taken place there. I mean, this is dark and, again, by design. So advocates, advocacy organizations, community leaders are distributing what are known as the red cards. And these are cards, primarily in Spanish, that inform undocumented or really anybody, folks, about their rights when it comes to interacting with and dealing with immigration and customs enforcement or other federal law enforcement in terms of their specific standing of what is required from a warrant standpoint, what is required from the standpoint of them having to identify themselves or answer questions. So these red cards are being distributed. They already were being distributed, but now with a little bit more intensity over the last, as I understand it, the last, at this point, 24 hours in Newport, in Providence, and in other places. And one of the rumors yesterday, as this was taking place, as this operation was taking place, and think about this, Newport, Rhode Island, middle of the wintertime, here's a city that is becoming more and more and more of an oligarchy scenario where you've really got the consolidation of power around just a couple of major players in terms of a business sector, a hospitality sector, right? And a number of undocumented folks who stand these facilities up through their work and through working at a compensation level that is usually, if not very often, below any standard of living that should be acceptable. And all of a sudden, rumors start to spread throughout the community. And when I say community, I don't just mean the immigrant community or the undocumented immigrant community. I mean the whole community. And of course, with that comes people cheerleading. You know, people who are just either insensitive, have a low level of consciousness or empathy, have some kind of bizarre, weird patriotic ideals that actually believe that what's taking place is a good thing. And there are plenty of them. And you'll hear from them if you make one comment about this on social media or on the radio or anything else. You're going to hear from tons of maniacs that actually believe what's taking place is a good thing. But here's the reality. Rumors start to spread. Mission accomplished. Trauma is induced. And there were rumors that ICE was going in to Newport public schools yesterday with the intention of removing students who are undocumented. To such an extent that by the end of the school day, reportedly, I didn't speak with anyone, but I spoke with people who were in contact with these kids. They were terrified. And they actually were afraid to leave school. They were afraid to get on the bus. And they had to be transported home privately because of the raw fear and the raw trauma introduced into their lives as a result of this. Colleen Burns-Germain is the superintendent of Newport schools and distributed a letter yesterday to parents, and I'm going to read that for you right now. She writes, "Good afternoon, Newport families and partners. Today, rumors of ICE being in Newport ran rampant and impacted our schools. I want to be very clear that no ICE agents or any federal agents came to our schools or inquired about our students or their families at any time. None were seen around any of our schools, and all of our students were safe. What did happen today was some Rogers High School students at the end of the day did receive texts from outside of school that alarmed them. They went to school administration and expressed that they were afraid. School administration offered to transport these students home in one of our vans instead of riding the school bus. At TMS, that's Thompson Middle School, some parents, aware that their high school student siblings were getting a ride home from Rogers High School, asked if the Thompson Middle School sibling could be picked up. This led to some Thompson Middle School students and others being driven home and not riding the school bus. At no time did ICE or any ICE agents enter the building, or were students or staff in any danger. At Pell Elementary School, no ICE, no disruptions, and students there were no ICE, no disruptions, and students followed their usual dismissal procedures. Everyone in our school is safe. Out of an abundance of concern for our students and in the interest of trying to make them feel safe, the decision to change the dismissal procedure just led to rumors and caused people to fear the worst. I know there are very difficult, I know these are very difficult and emotional times for everyone, and I apologize for this, for the upset that this may have caused. Please know that going forward, if any changes in dismissal procedures ever occur again, families and our staff will be notified by their schools. That's Colleen Burns-Germain, Superintendent of Newport Public Schools. Think about that for a second. You're a kid in school, and you're getting a text message that indicates, hey, by the way, not a lie, ICE is on the ground in Newport. You've got military-style police with masks on in downtown Newport. Nobody knows exactly what's happening. Nobody knows if this is some kind of sweep, some kind of massive raid. You don't know. You're in school. Are you imagining military-style vehicles or black SUVs going up and down Broadway or Thames Street or Spring Street or any other place for that matter? Quote-unquote, rounding people up? You don't know if your family's impacted. You don't know if your friends are impacted, your neighbor. You don't know what's going on because it's subject to rumor mill and, in some cases, nonsense reporting by civilians for the most part. When I say reporting, I mean people posting things. What an unbelievably dark moment. And again, that is by design. So are there going to be more similar type of operations, targeted or otherwise, in Newport, in Providence, in Central Falls, I mean, in Wakefield? Who knows? And keeping people on the edge of their seats, knowing that, hey, at any given moment, ICE officials, FBI officials, whatever, they could show up. You, your family members, your friends could be detained, taken into custody. Doesn't matter if you've declared asylum, whatever it is. And by the way, you could be taken and rounded up and brought to Guantanamo Bay. That's the reality that we're in today. That's the actual truth of the moment. I spoke with somebody last night who works with youth and inclusive of undocumented youth in Providence on a couple of things. And this is exactly what she was talking about. It's irrelevant. In a macro context, it's irrelevant whether or not this operation that took place yesterday was a broad stroke type of, military style roundup or simply a targeted situation. Because the traumatic experience that the youth in our community are facing is already underway. And again, there's people who think that this is just such a wonderful day for America. They can't get enough of this stuff. And generally speaking, these folks have no idea what they're talking about. They don't understand the nature of what is actually happening on the ground. They're going to make the argument, well, this is all about just, cracking down on criminals who ought to be deported because they committed a crime here. They entered the country, or really more likely overstayed their visa in this country, and then they committed a criminal act. And, for me, what I'm getting, Bill Bartholomew, what I'm getting is when I go on the radio and say something like this, or on, some of the conservative platforms, X or whatever, and I put this out there, well, that means that Bartholomew supports child molesters. Because there's an example of a guy who was a child molester who overstayed his visa, and he should have been deported. So that's the type of non sequitur arguments that you get. And again, the reality is that this is not exclusive to criminal migrants. There's collateral damage that's taking place. Now, how this plays out, we'll see. But it is scary and it is real. And again, going back to that conversation I had with an organizational leader here in Providence last night, the terror that some of these kids are facing, now knowing that, hey, in your backyard, and let's face it, we're a city-state, Newport, Providence, doesn't matter. In your backyard, some element of this is taking place in real time. And now you got to look over your shoulder because you don't know what's going to happen next. We hear so much about the chaos being sowed intentionally by the flurry of executive orders by Trump. And the nature of the characters that he's putting into positions of authority. Kristi Noem, for example, yesterday, basically in costume, wearing ICE regalia in New York City, saying, hey, we're here to do raids, let's go clean up this mess. I mean, that's literally what she posted on social media. And you look at it and you go, my God, it's real. Now, is this the end times? Are we actually seeing, tanks up and down Broad Street? Am I looking out at Elmwood Avenue and seeing tanks and military-style vehicles going up and down, brigades of anonymous police with dogs going around? No, not yet. But the seeds of trauma are planted. And if you don't have empathy for that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm hearing from people on the ground that the fear alone is so substantial. And, we talked about, we got to get kids to school for attendance. The attendance means better outcomes and, we've got to get people healthy meals. And these are all, in many cases, true. Doesn't matter. None of that matters if your life is going to be spent looking over your shoulder and fearing the worst. Because why not fear the worst? Why wouldn't you think, hey, anything can happen here and I could be subjected, or my family or my friends could be subjected? Well, Bill, they shouldn't enter the country illegally. Hey, where's your heart? What level of consciousness are you operating on? And by the way, if you think Guantanamo Bay and similar facilities around the country, internment camps, one of the great shames of American history, Japanese internment camps, Trail of Tears, so on and so forth, these types of events that poison our historical narrative, if you think that the use of Guantanamo Bay for immigrants who've been rounded up by a Trump apparatus, ICE or otherwise, is going to be exclusive to those immigrant families or those immigrant individuals, I got news for you. It's not. They said they're going to put 30,000 people there, I read somewhere. I didn't know the facility could even come close to handling that. And I read that somewhere. I read that in a news outlet. Just can't remember off the top of my head. And it's not like I read that on X or something, which I'm trying to spend as little time on as possible, by the way. I got news for you. No, that facility can easily be used for dissidents. It can easily be used for political enemies, and it can be easily used for other marginalized groups that fall out of favor or are deemed, quote unquote, here's the favorite one, right? A threat to national security. And now all of a sudden, you're in a place where we've seen through the war on terror, where the ultimate loop, doesn't matter what the ACLU says, doesn't matter what the Constitution says, doesn't matter what anybody says, advocacy groups, you are in a scenario where somehow we've got this blackout type of facility, as we do around the country, around the world, where law does not protect you. Wake up. If you're waking up this morning and you're trying to make sense of what took place, and you're thinking to yourself, oh, geez, all right, good. It was only one guy or woman or person that was rounded up, and, it's scary, but, hey, geez, it's not, let's, everybody calm down here. Everybody just take a deep breath. Hey, easy to say that right now. That may not be the case. And why wouldn't it be? What indication do you have right now as you watch what's unfolding in this country that this is going to be anything less than a full-on onslaught of retribution and certainly on a global basis, cleansing? I mean, you hear Trump talk about Gaza in a disgraceful manner where he wants to displace people as they return to whatever is left. He's got some kind of vision. He's talking like it's going to become a resort. And he just wants people to just say, yeah, forget it. Let's go to Egypt. This is the degradation of humans that's happening from our leadership. And let me ask you, Lionhearts out there, are you ready to lead? Are you ready to step up in your community and take a position of authority and leadership to say, hey, no. This isn't the world that I want. This isn't the world that I believe in. And this is not the world that I will accept. And look, it makes all the sense in the world that people would say, geez, I cannot face this. I've thought this. I have been deeply reflecting on, can I do this? Can I be active in this environment? It's going to be a slog. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be dangerous. And again, I can see some of our listeners right now laughing, rolling their eyes, drafting their messages to me about that I'm a snowflake, I'm a fearmongerer, I'm this, I'm that. And by the way, yeah, they shouldn't have entered the country illegally. And you know what? Just get in line and follow orders. Shut up and follow orders. Follow instructions. Say the Pledge of Allegiance. Get down on your knees and lick boots. And if you follow instructions, we'll let you move about somewhat freely in a decimated capitalistic system where you may or may not be able to afford housing. You may or may not be able to imagine a future. You may or may not be able to have food. And this is not a dystopian novel. This is the plan, and it is unfolding, and it's a Rhode Island story. For the most part, we feel disconnected, right? We feel, generally speaking, I think, like we're kind of removed from a lot of the national conversation. Much of the talk about Trump has been, well, are we going to get funding for the bridge, the Washington Bridge? The bridge, I mean, geez. I mean, we need the funding for the bridge, obviously. I mean, that thing is a disaster. What kind of world do you want to live in? We need to go inward as a community more than ever, right? And that's the beauty of the opportunity we have here in Rhode Island. We do have that where we are proximate to each other, where we have a lot of really, really good people who want to work towards a common goal. Sure, there's plenty of indifference. Sure, there's plenty of people who would love to see nothing but kind of a Christian nationalist type of thing happening here. Sure, we've got a handful of, couple of here and there elected officials who, they make outrageous comments and, but they think they're great. They think they're not outrageous. They think it makes sense. And this is not just exclusive to the conservative lane, but mostly there where the impracticality of advancement is occurring, right? The silos are being dug that much deeper and that made that much taller. But we have an obligation to watch out for each other. A listener sent me a message yesterday pertaining to Joe Policina Jr. and his disgusting approach to declaring eminent domain on property that would be would have been affordable housing, but now with this, I mean, come on, man. This ridiculous move where he gets the town council to approve the eminent domain. They're not going to build a new Johnston High School. Instead, they're going to take $40 million in cash reserves and build a new municipal facility on this land. And the affordable housing. And then, by the way, Policina couldn't have been more clear. It wasn't like, it's collateral damage. We lose the affordable housing. No, he did not want to build affordable housing in the town of Johnston. And like I said yesterday, fine, stay the hell out of Johnston then. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if that's the mentality there, they're putting Columbus statues up. They don't want, they diminish opportunities for public schools, and they don't want affordable housing there. Okay, so let them do their thing. I don't know what to say. I don't know. If maybe people can try to run for elected office there, good luck beating a political machine like the Policinas anyway. So I don't know what to say about it. Right? But somebody sent me a message yesterday, and the timing was great because I grew up in the woods of South County, Rhode Island. And that's not to say that I grew up in the middle of Alaska. Let's be honest. But I've been observing nature very carefully for my whole life. I love the wild turkeys and the deer and the birds, hummingbirds, the ants. I grew up near a farm too. That's probably why I became a vegetarian, is because when I was a little kid, I used to love going down and visiting the pigs. I love the turtles. So I've been doing this my whole life. And I was just drawn to vegetarianism and then later veganism. Not in a judgmental way, certainly not in a trend way or a dietary way, just as a part of my sort of practice of life, right? But of late, I've been studying animal medicine quite a bit. It's been helping me through some tough times, and it's been really good for me to dig into. And I would recommend anybody, just look at animal medicine. And you'll find it in different ways. You can practice this there's tarot cards, there's reading, just studying the ways of other creatures, other living creatures that share the world with us, right? But a listener sent me a message yesterday describing, and again, this was reaction to Policina, but I think it applies across the board. Describing, let me read you the message. Buffalo and herds surround the most vulnerable to keep them safe from threat. The big bulls on the outside, horns pointed outward from the center. The matriarch females form another circle behind them. The youngest, the calves, are in the center, protected on all sides. Think about that. Look around at nature. Yes, there are examples where some animals sacrifice their own young for the preservation of the greater good. But look at other living creatures and compare that to what we're seeing with intentional inducement of trauma into our own species. And I don't care what your political views are. You want to tell me that that's natural? You want to tell me that that's the way, the order of life as it ought to be? It's not. And so as we enter into more and more, we're only a couple of weeks into the Trump administration. But as we continue to move in this direction, we continue to look at our own community here in Rhode Island, which is my advocacy right now. It's easy to say, yeah, let's protect the most vulnerable. But are you ready? If you're capable, if you're a big bull, are you ready to point your horns outward from the center? Are you ready to practice what you preach? Now, this isn't a call to arms or some sort of nut job idea either. I mean, some of this nonsense I'm seeing about militia or, frankly, even protests at this point. Protests are wonderful. Some of my most proud memories or most important memories as a journalist have been covering protests. But they are only a signpost. They are only a flashpoint. They are only an opportunity to coalesce around a message. What are we going to do here, man? What are we going to do, everybody? What is the plan? There isn't one. You can't just write it out, but organize. I met last night with 5 people. We were working on music. We stood here for close to an hour in a circle just talking. Some of that is therapeutic. Some of it is just trying to wrap our heads around what's going on. Some of it's talking about within our community, what do we do to strengthen? And by the way, we need laughter. We need joy. We need the good things in life. They have not been taken from us. And it is possible to live in both places at the same time. The place of life and joy and love and beauty and opportunity and excitement and fulfillment and passion and pride. All of that's right there. It's available to us. It's available to you right now. But that does not mean go to La La Land and pretend that what's happening in our world is not happening, because you can't, at a certain point, you will not be able to deny it. You may be safe from any and all of these actions that are taking place on a practical level. You may never have any disruption to your life other than the universal force that glues us all together is being very much so disrupted. And where it leads to, I don't know. I don't know if we ought not talk about anything doomsday or it's almost like a cheap way to feel like you've got control if you sit here and say, this is going to be a meltdown, this is going to be a disaster, it already is in so many ways. How do we protect our herd? It's going to be more than just politicians. Much more. It's going to be more than nonprofit leaders, community leaders. And some of this, if not most of it, is a psychological mindset. I know we have listeners to this show because I hear from you. Whether you're listening on the podcast, on ripodcast.com, or on WPRO on the radio on the weekend show. I know there are people out there who actually believe that what's taking place, and you're not just saying it because you're on Team Trump, you actually believe that the only way to save this country is to conduct ICE raids and round up undocumented immigrants and get them out of here. Or you actually believe that the funding freeze is a good idea. You know, I spoke with a nonprofit leader last night who said, you know, the funding freeze is very scary. We don't know where it's going to go, but at least we are both funded through the next several years. We're not like, you know, just-in-time delivery of our finances. We've got a plan. We're in place for a while, but also we have sort of auxiliary donation plans. So we'll be kind of okay, even if the funding freeze impacts our operational budget. And hopefully it gets to a point where, you know, that's not lasting. It gets overturned or gets in the midterms. Things get reset, so to speak, through Congress, right? But all these things are sowing chaos. And it's so artificial as well. I talked about this on the radio I was hosting yesterday or Wednesday, depending on when you're listening. And we were watching RFK Jr.'s confirmation. I mean, come on, dude. What is this guy doing? I mean, at one point, you could make an argument. RFK Jr., with some of his concepts around processed food and things like this, certainly if you look at him historically on environmental issues, a lot of good things happening, right? But yeah, the processed food stuff and diet and exercise, I can get behind that notion for sure. I think there's a lot of truth to it. I know my life, my health has been way better since I stopped. I used to eat donuts every day. I used to drink Coca-Cola. I used to, all that stuff. And I know in the time that I've eliminated all that from my life, alcohol, since I've eliminated that from my life, I feel better. I don't think I am better than anybody, but I think for me, I know my temple is in better shape. When I exercise, when I am physically engaging my body and my mind, I feel better. Okay, that's all I can say. So if Kennedy's going on and on about that, okay, I hear him. Of course, the guy's also a complete joker when it comes to the vaccine stuff and a lot of these other sort of, he's going to push back on it and has been, but they're frankly conspiracy theory stuff. I mean, he and Alex Jones are a lot more in line with each other than either one would probably admit, right? In a certain way. But he's up there yesterday, confirmation hearings, and Senator Bernie Sanders asked a simple question. Hey, you say you want to make America healthy again. Well, let me ask you this. Is health care a human right? Should we have universal health care available? And Kennedy said, well, I can't give you a yes or no answer on that. Well, then that shows that you are captured by the very same business interest that for however long you have railed against. And now all of a sudden you are supposedly this outsider, as much of an outsider as a Kennedy could be. You're weirdly shifting positions on reproductive rights. And you say you want to make America healthy again. Talk about processed food. You want to talk about the water. All of these things are, again, I think there's a legitimacy to them. And it's not to shame people for eating or drinking tap water or doing whatever they want. I don't care. You want to smoke cigarettes? You want to drink alcohol? You want to do whatever you want? Who cares? And from my standpoint, this is Bill Bartholomew talking. You could do whatever you'd like. I won't judge you. But Bobby Kennedy, he's going to get up there and say, let's make America healthy again. And he's out there on TikTok crawling around with the organic farm covered in ladybugs, with shirtless, lifting weights on camera, giving this image of that's what it means. And you can't answer the question whether or not health care is a fundamental human right, particularly in a country that is the most wealthy and powerful industrialized nation ever? And you're going to sit there and advocate to make America healthy again? You want to be Health and Human Services Secretary, and you can't answer Sanders about whether or not health care is a human right? Nonsense. Captured by the same interests that he railed against. So as we've got trauma injected into our community, chaos being sowed on a federal level that's frankly making its way around the globe, and then we've got this artificial, which, by the way, it's the same with Palestina. These guys think they MAGA, yeah, look what we're doing. Look what our coalition is doing. We're taking back this country. No, you're not. You're a grunt person for an oligarch operation that hates you. All of these characters on the micro level, whether it's Palestina, in our state, Palestina, De La Cruz, all these characters. The Trump and these Kennedy, they hate you. They don't like you. They think you're a poor person to them. You're nothing. We're all in this together. This is the ultimate situation where it is completely obvious that on a federal level, we've got people in charge of government in an elected, in an appointed, and in an exo-governmental influencer space that have been elected by a coalition that thinks they're all on the same team, But the reality is, not a chance. You've been used. And how about the photograph that surfaced yesterday of a man in handcuffs of a dark complexion? I don't know. I have no idea nationality. Doesn't specify. In handcuffs, being led with his arms by two law enforcement officers with ICE insignia on the back of their military gear. The guy's got a construction helmet on, a hard hat. You know what his T-shirt says on the back of it? Latinos for Trump. And that's the illustration that all of us who have been watching this from a broad level have come to realize. That's the reality on the ground. Most of the coalition that elected Donald Trump are the very same people which that organization, that peer group, that power system despises. And so if you think you're safe because you voted for Trump, and when I say safe, let's not get carried away here, folks. Let's not get carried away. I don't think that we need to be, as a whole, on guard to the point where our lives are completely wrapped up in fear. We cannot allow that either. But we must be alert, and we must do whatever we can reasonably to protect the most vulnerable. It's a basic statement that's said all the time. And it may be more important than ever before to ask yourself what that means for you if you actually believe it. I'm Bill Bartholomew. We'll talk to you soon. Are you looking to advance in your career or explore a new field? The University of Rhode Island now offers a comprehensive portfolio of fully online programs designed to bring world-class education to you anytime, anywhere. Choose from a wide range of flexible, asynchronous programs in business and leadership, data, tech, and STEM, healthcare and pharmacy, marine and environmental science, and more. With expert faculty and innovative courses, you'll gain the skills and knowledge to thrive in today's competitive world. Are you ready to take the next step? Visit uri.edu/online and discover how URI Online can help you achieve your goals. URI Online, learn anywhere with us. Half Street Group brings a new generation's perspective to leadership communication, strategic public relations, and digital marketing. Half Street helps organizations and leaders take control of their own stories and manage their reputations. They get results for their clients by focusing on audience, message, and culture, and by leveraging their decade-long relationship with media and opinion leaders in the Ocean State and throughout New England. Join me and Half Street Group founder and president Mike Rea for a conversation every month about news of the day, the hottest media analysis, and a look behind the scenes at how impactful leaders drive conversations. Learn more at halfstreetgroup.com.